Welcome to the 2007 International and Area Studies Commencement. I'm John Lee, the Dean of International and Area Studies. Thank you. Let me begin by saying, congratulations, class of 2007. This is a very happy occasion to the graduating seniors and graduate students, a recognition for their years of study to enter the elite company of educated women and men. It's also a source of pride, joy, and dare I say, relief for parents, family, and friends who have generously supported them over the years. i.e., thank you, Mom and Dad. And it's a right of supreme importance for faculty and staff to see our graduates off to the uncertain world outside. It's the one event in which all of us concerned come together to celebrate what we're here for, what we've done, and what we're about, to educate the next generation's leaders in California, United States, and indeed the world. So congratulations to each and every one of you, to each and every one of us. University of California, Berkeley is perhaps the premier research university in the world. Repeatedly, we're ranked as one of the top 10 universities, not in the US, but in the world, along with Harvard and Yale, Oxford and Cambridge. I can speak from my personal experience traveling around the world, whether it's Beijing or Berlin, Delhi or Dubai, that Berkeley commands respect and reverence, awe and admiration. For there is hardly any place in the world today where Berkeley doesn't stand for intellectual excellence. What's truly astounding, to me at least, is that we managed to achieve this excellence while charging perhaps a fifth of the tuition at Harvard or Princeton. As I meet prime ministers, presidents of universities around the world, they often ask me for the secret of Berkeley's excellence in teaching and research. The president of University of Tokyo will ask endless questions about how we're organized. The Minister of Education of Germany wants to model German universities after UC Berkeley. My answer has been banal, but I believe nonetheless true. What makes Berkeley so outstanding is in part our distinguished and dedicated faculty members. They are world-renowned scholars, and I am proud to be standing next to them. And let me take this opportunity to introduce each of them to you. First, Ananya Roy, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs. Professor Gillian Hart, Co-Chair of Development Studies. Professor Michael Watts, Co-Chair of Development Studies. Professor Estelle Tarica, Chair of Latin American Studies. Professor Nizar Al-Sayad, Chair of Middle Eastern Studies. Professor Jerry Sanders, Chair of Peace and Conflict Studies. Professor J. Bradford DeLong, Chair of Political Economy of Advanced Industrial Society. Dr. Alan Karras. Professor Edwin Epstein, Director of the Rotary Peace Program. Professor Max Aufhammer. Professor Beatrice Mantz. Professor Emily Gottridge. Professor Manal Jamal. Professor Louis Siegel. Professor Darren Zook. Professor Darius Zahedi. Professor Rachel Sigekane. Professor Neven Agilic. Professor Michael Nagler. Professor Claire Talwalker. Professor Edith Ng. Professor Anita Madrid. Beyond the teachers are our exceptionally capable and long-suffering staff members, without whom none of this would be possible. Thanks, therefore, to the following ISA teaching program staff: Katie Dustin, Karen Bautista Tanisaki, Pam Gleason, Hilary Fincham Song, Nan Hera, Anna Romay, Veronique Richard, and Vida Prater. Along with the IAS staff, they have worked tirelessly to make this event, and indeed the whole operation, possible. Beyond these great scholars and staff, what makes Berkeley so special is its truly exceptional student body. That's you. Berkeley turns down more undergraduate applications than any other university in the US and probably the world. And we all know that it can be a struggle to survive and prosper here, but in struggling for attention and recognition, I think our students thrive cultivating that crucial talent for autonomy and critical thinking that equip them so well when they go out into the world. After all, we attract great faculty members in part because they look forward to teaching bright, creative, and demanding students. And this is especially true in International and Area Studies teaching program, where we simply ask more from our students. For example, our majors have more extensive foreign language requirements than any other majors except for language majors themselves. Though some of you may have grumbled, I can assure you that in our globalized and globalizing world, our graduates have come back to tell us why even the dreaded foreign language requirement proved to be so immensely useful as they make their careers in business or government, academia, or activism. We also provide the necessary historical and comparative perspective that's so often lacking in our university education. Things have not always been the way it is now. Things are not always the same in other places, other cultures. These simple lessons give us not only a better sense of ourselves, but also how we might conduct ourselves in the globalizing world, whether it's foreign policy, international business, or simply tourism. International and Area Studies majors provide what I think of as the necessary background to make sense of and to navigate our complex and dynamic world. And you, the graduating seniors, are indeed very impressive. Many of you undertook the rigorous demands of double major, whether with anthropology or economics, history or history of art, Spanish and Portuguese, or South and Southeast Asian studies. You have minored in degrees as disparate as city and regional planning, or public policy, African American studies, or gender and women's studies, dance and performance studies, or conservation and resource studies. You have worked with faculty members on research topics ranging from California's photovoltaic gamble to the middle class in Iran. You have, many of you, studied abroad, whether in Turkey or Egypt, China or India, South Africa or Morocco, France or Spain, Brazil or Ecuador. Your prestigious awards are far too many to mention, but let me recount a few. Fulbright Fellowship, Tinker Grant, John Gardner Fellowship, and for once this year, a student on the Pac-10 Academic All-American team. Already, you are well on your way toward a promising and fulfilling life. Some of you will continue your studies, whether at Harvard or Columbia, Oxford, or the London School of Economics, and some even right here at UC Berkeley. Others of you will be part of reconstruction effort in New Orleans, or doing a documentary in Darfur, or teaching in New York City, or working for the Peace Corps in Morocco, or working for Larry King Live at CNN, writing for a Turkish newspaper in Istanbul, selling real estate in San Francisco, or working for the United Healthcare Workers. While at least one of you will be selling Gallo wine, another will be driving BART trains in the Bay Area. At least one of you will be training for the next Olympic Games, and at least one person just cannot wait to get married. And we even have identical twins who will be graduating together today. Finally, what makes Berkeley so special is its tradition of excellence. This is, of course, a very young state in a very young country, but our predecessors have created a remarkable institution with a long list of distinguished alumni. There's a sense in which excellence begets excellence, achievements build on achievements. This is true because the world is full of those who graduated and carried their Berkeley with them. Many of you, of course, will leave Berkeley, but it will be hard to take Berkeley out of you. Generations of outstanding students have passed before you, as many more will. We have an eclectic and excellent group of graduating students, and I'm honored to be today to preside over this rite of passage. Now, it's time for one of our distinguished graduating seniors to address you. He is graduating as a political economy of the industrializing societies major with a minor in public policy. He has a perfect 4.0 GPA in his major, having been on the Dean's Honors List every semester. He spent 15 months studying off campus from Nicaraguan Embassy in Washington, D.C., to Carlos III University in Spain, to the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And somehow, he managed to graduate on time. Please join me in welcoming our student speaker, Zachary Brannon Kruth.
Hi. I'm going to take off my hat because it's kind of itchy. All right. Hi, Mom. Relatives, friends, teachers, and roommates, I'm here to tell you about a special moment in my life at Cal. It might even have been the most important thing that ever happened to me here. It was late one afternoon, April 3rd, 2007. I ran over a squirrel on my bicycle. In all the time I have spent at Cal, it was probably the most unreal experience I have ever had. There I was, biking down the hill near the Campanile, minding my own business, when suddenly the thing darts out of the bushes straight into my path. It swerves, I swerve, it jumps and lands on my gears. For one moment, me, the squirrel, and the biker won, locked in an epic high-speed battle of momentum and fur. And ultimately, I feel a disturbing thump as the squirrel disappears underneath my back tire. I slam on the brakes and circle back, expecting after the awful day I've already had to see a horrifically mangled squirrel body lying on the road behind me. Instead, I find only the furry end of half a squirrel tail and 4 stunned Berkeley students who can't believe what they've just seen. One of them shakes his head and tells me that the apparently still whole squirrel has disappeared back into the bushes from whence it came. Upon careful examination of the surrounding area, I conclude that it must have decided to go try dodging cars instead. This is the story of one incident in the life of a Cal student, me. Now, I don't anticipate that the point of me telling you this story will become clear to you instantly. In reality, it was incredibly difficult for me to come up with anything at all to tell you, mostly because I figured that the reality is we don't share a whole lot in common. I wanted to make fun of Professor Zook's bad jokes about Malaysian politics, or Professor Zahidi's affinity for soft-core swear words in class. Or even tell you about that one time that Professor Karras caught someone reading the newspaper in lecture. Problem is, maybe you never took a class with one of those professors. Or maybe you did, but that day it was just too hard to get up before noon. I could also instead have made grand pronouncements about college life, about how none of us ever did all of our reading and we thought our GSIs would never know, and how we started those 12-week assignments at the most of the time 3 or 4 days before they were due. Finally, I could have mentioned those breadth requirements classes we all had to take, the ones with difficult topics like shapes, colors, and the alphabet, and gravity, why stuff falls down. But in lieu of these options, I'll continue with my story. I'm still sitting on the curb, looking at little squirrel hairs on my bike gears, and half a tail in the middle of the road. I suddenly realized that I will never forget this moment. This feeling of utter confusion, mixed with no small bit of anger at fate, and very gradually I find myself trying to make up reasons for why this happened to me. It's because of karma. I haven't been a good enough person. I've been drinking my roommate's milk for a semester and a half, and I haven't told him. I didn't tip well last time I ordered a burrito at La Burrita. Maybe it's because of that chair I had in my dorm room my freshman year that I had misappropriated from the Haas Business School's patio. Nope, it's definitely because I hate that "you got any change" woman who always yells at me on the way home every single day. Unsatisfied, I decided to see if my academic education could help me solve this problem. I thought of the simple, short solutions that a few different IAS majors might offer me. A PAX major, conflict mediation. Development studies, it's not your fault, it's America's. That was my roommate Braden's joke right there. And then my own major, PEIS, where Veblen's theory of conspicuous consumption and invidious comparison evaluated against Marx's dialectical materialism might shed light on pecuniary emulation and postmodern neo-Malthusian reflection. I knew I shouldn't have picked this department just because the peer advisors were hot. Then, suddenly, it hits me like 2 1,500-page readers from PEIS 101. Sitting there on the curb, I realize that this is beautiful. And I don't mean beautiful in the way normal people mean it. I mean it in the way us Cal students understand it. This is a Berkeley sort of beauty. It's the beauty of Telegraph, the lady yelling at you for change, the smell of garbage mixed with blooming flowers and greasy stir-fry. It's the chaotic, sometimes nonsensical, hippie, liberal, fascist community we've all been a part of. Marxists, capitalists, Catholics, atheists, people yelling at you to stop abortions, people yelling at you to get abortions. Jesus saves, Jesus doesn't. Everything controversial comes up in class, and when it doesn't, it comes at you in the street. We all feed off of this, whether we realize it or not. Love it or hate it, Berkeley sweeps you up. It breathes life into everything you do. Even if you are thousands of miles away, you will always know where your heart is, or at least a little piece of it. All of a sudden, I feel light. The pavement doesn't look so dreary. The evening isn't so cold. The squirrel's half a tail, it isn't so gruesome. I understand. I understand. I have just been given a story about the craziness of this place. I look around and see that I am here on a campus that feels alive. I am alive. And despite my best efforts at cynicism, despite travel to far-off places, despite promising myself I was just getting a degree and moving on, Cal has sucked me in and changed my life. We learned a lot here, so much so that it seems impossible to speak about it in any orderly fashion. But I like to look at it this way. Despite my earlier comments, the courses we took in our majors meant a lot to us because they taught us what we really wanted to know: facts and figures, theories and ideas. Hopefully our classes also inspired us, and if not, maybe we should have shown up to a few more of them. But despite our professors' best efforts, what we learned in class didn't always apply to the little things we live through every day in life. And when learning and logic failed, our wider experience here at Cal gave us something different. What it gave us was stories. We'll share these with each other 20 years from now at some alumni reception. We'll ask each other, were you there when we beat USC at that football game in triple overtime freshman year? Do you remember the Happy Happy Man? What was your favorite way to avoid Sather Gate at noon? Who was that guy who gave that highly mediocre graduation speech? We'll have a lot in common. But I'll tell you this. The stories that will make me happiest are the ones that you tell me that I could never have experienced because I wasn't there. They will be the stories like the one I just told you that probably didn't have any meaning to anyone but you at the time. And we'll both just sit back and laugh at the absurdity of it all. We'll laugh at what we really learned at a university big enough to teach us all something different. I can't wait to hear your stories about a place I will miss. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our commencement speaker, Sabir Bhatia. In spite of attending a less prestigious and less well-known institution in the South Bay called Stanford, Sabir has managed to be an amazing pioneer in the field of information and communication technology. He founded Hotmail, the world's largest email provider, in 1996, thereby literally revolutionizing our communication. He has made the world a much smaller place, an architect and engineer of our globalizing and globalized world. Not being rest content with his early successes, Sabir is now engaged in several very ambitious ventures. Perhaps the most interesting and exciting is the one with which some of our faculty colleagues and students are engaged in. It's the construction of Nano City, a project to create a brand new city from scratch in India. Nano City embodies Sabir's vision and commitment to chart a path of sustainable urban development, made all the more necessary by environmental threats that lurk all around us. His work expresses the creative and responsible engagement with globalization that UC Berkeley and International and Area Studies in particular celebrates and embraces. Please welcome Sabir Bhatia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the honor of speaking at this august institution. And yes, my entrepreneurial journey did start at Stanford, but it does continue through the halls of this great institution. I will explain during the course of my speech. I came to Stanford as a young graduate of Caltech, and at that time, my only goal in life was to get a PhD and become a scientist. As fate would have it, I took a course at the business school called Business for Electrical Engineers. And my life changed forever. During the course, we were given a glimpse of what it takes to start and build great companies. I saw in flesh and blood the likes of Steve Jobs and Scott McNealy, entrepreneurs who had started great companies that were brand names in the Valley and the world over. It was during that time that the seeds of entrepreneurship were planted in me. I also learned that the first principle of entrepreneurship, which is that all great companies, they start with a simple idea. In fact, all of human progress is a collection of good ideas that humans like you and I have made reality. As you start your journey in this real world and look to fill the blank canvas of your lives, remember that at the heart of all this progress are great ideas that come from people like yourself. I quickly finished my master's at Stanford and joined Apple Computer as an engineer. I worked there for less than a year before joining a startup called Firepower Systems. I was bitten by the startup bug. I wanted to learn firsthand what it takes to make a new company successful. After working there for 2 years, in 1994, I saw this new medium called the World Wide Web get worldwide attention. Instinctively, I knew that one day this medium would affect every aspect of our lives. I was also inspired by the stories of young people like Mark Andreessen and Jerry Yang. So I started looking for ideas that would make the web more interesting and useful. Jack, my partner, and I started a company called JavaSoft, originally, which was meant to be a web-based database. Later, we hit upon the idea to make email available to all on the web. It was a simple idea, one that exploited the ubiquity of the web, and yet one that has stood the test of time. If Hotmail were a country today, it would have a population of over 300 million people. I've often thought about entrepreneurship. I've come to believe that at the heart of every entrepreneurial effort is a problem. It's a problem that an entrepreneur must solve. And there are a few questions that an entrepreneur has to ask himself or herself. Number one, can I garner enough resources to solve this problem? 2, is the problem large enough? In other words, is the market for this solution big enough? Then, of course, come the business details. Who will pay for it? And does it make financial sense to do it? The good news is that entrepreneurship has the ability to solve all types of problems that we as humans face today, whether it's energy, poverty, climate change, third world development, disease, hunger, or AIDS, and not just in the areas of high-tech development. After selling Hotmail to Microsoft and working there for a year, my entrepreneurial journey continued with the founding of Arzu.com, a company that I started in 1999, but one that I quickly shut down in 2001. I considered myself a failure. It is strange, but you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. I pondered long and hard about the reasons why it failed. Was I overconfident after the success of Hotmail? Was it that I hired the wrong team of people? Did I spend too much money too quickly? Regardless of what the reason was, I've come to believe that there are 4 factors that determine whether an entrepreneur succeeds or fails. The most important is the quality of people she or he hires. Number 2 is, of course, the size of the market. 3 is the technology that is required to bring the product or the service to market. And number 4 is the funding that is required. And like I mentioned, the most important of all of these is the quality of people that one hires, because markets can come and go, Funding may dry up, but it's the quality of people that take a company forward. It was not long ago that I was at my graduation, just like all of you. And my goal at that time was to become rich and retire early. Somehow this is so effectively marketed to you. After shutting arzu.com, I took that advice and I retired. For a year, I traveled to places, partied like there was no tomorrow, in the south of France, Cape Town, Mumbai, New York, you name it. And I was there for the party. All this lasted a year. At the end of it, I was bored, had lost self-esteem, and unlike my friends, had nothing to look forward to each day. I can safely say that is the last time I will ever retire in my life. I slowly clawed back into the thick of things, started tinkering around with the internet again, and found small opportunities. I'm proud to say that today I have relaunched arzu.com as a travel portal in India, have 3 other startups in different areas of software development. The moral of the story is that early retirement is overrated. Find things that you love to do and you'll never have to work again in your life. This brings me to another topic, globalism. After my graduation, the world I set foot in was very different from the world that you are about to enter. Events in China, India, Russia, Sudan, Brazil, Iraq, or any other place in the world have a direct impact on our financial and personal lives. We live in a global world and cannot think of being just within the borders of our own country. With greater internet connectivity and shortening of travel times, the world is only going to get smaller. I can say this with personal experience. My companies are developing software in 4 different cities of the world, and events around the world have a direct effect on them. Over the course of the next few decades, more than half the world will develop and start consuming products and energy just like all of us. God forbid if they develop and consume like us. If they do, we may not have a planet to inhabit in the next 50 years. Sustainability of our planet is in jeopardy. We must seize every opportunity to teach them and influence their development so that they do not make the same mistakes that we have. For this to happen, we have to set an example for them and not just talk about it. The whole world aspires to be like us, and we have a chance to show them how to live responsibly. I promised to tell you about how my entrepreneurial journey continues at Berkeley. And about a year ago, like the dean said, I got the opportunity to build a new city in India. I'm not kidding, a new city, which hopefully over the next few decades will become a model for the future urbanization of India. How I came to become a developer of cities is a long story, and I will spare you the details. This is part of being an entrepreneur. You never know where the road takes you, only that you have to be prepared for any challenge that comes your way. When the opportunity first came my way, I was not exactly excited about developing real estate. You have to realize I had 0 experience in that area. But then as I delved deeper into the opportunity, it became clear to me that doing this right could have an influence on the lives of 500,000 people who will eventually inhabit Nano City, and indirectly on 80 to 100 million people who will move from rural to urban areas in India over the next decade. We are at a unique time in history where there is rapid urbanization taking place in 2 of the largest developing countries of the world, China and India. How these 2 countries develop and urbanize has an impact not just on their lives, but ours as well. Not knowing how to go about developing an entire city, I was fortunate enough to contact the School of Urban Planning and Architecture at Berkeley. They understood my problem and encouraged me to sponsor a design studio in which few faculty members and 16 students would help me understand the principles and issues associated with designing new cities. In the course of the past 5 months, your peers have worked tirelessly to come up with a master plan for Nano City. The master plan has been critiqued by over 24 faculty and experts in their fields, and I've got a better understanding of what it takes to design a sustainable city. it will probably take a couple of decades, if not longer, before I know this endeavor is successful or not. But whatever the outcome, I am just glad that my intentions of building the city are noble. One, to provide world-class infrastructure in a country that sorely lacks it. Two, to build a knowledge-based economy in the city. And three, to build a sustainable city in India. I'm glad that Berkeley will have played such a significant role in formulating the vision for and in designing the city. I want to talk about one last thing, about the idea that life is not just about earning and consuming. There's nothing wrong with having that goal, but some of us cross a point where all of our personal needs and those of our families are taken care of. What then? Surely it cannot be about earning more and still consuming more. It then behooves us to think about the world, to think about 40% of the human population that lives on less than $1 a day. Many of us will be blessed to be in a situation where we can think beyond our lives and the lives of our families. At the end of our lives, when we look back at our completed canvases, let it not be that all we did was earn and consume. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Sabir. Now we will recognize our graduates who, through their hard work, have earned special awards. All these awards have been kept secret until today, just like the Oscars. And we will start with a departmental citation. The departmental citation was created in 1955 by the UC Berkeley Committee on Prizes. Recipients are chosen because of unusual talent and promise, outstanding grades, distinctive work in their major, and their contribution to their own department. Only one student from each major may receive this award. Would the chairs of each of our majors step up as I announce each award? And would the following students please come up to the stage? First, Professor Michael Watts, co-chair of Development Studies, will present the winner of Departmental Citation in Development Studies to Thomas Patrick Chupin. Professor Estelle Tarica. She will present the winner of Departmental Citation in Latin American Studies to Daniela Cruo Di Giacomo. Professor Nizar Arsayad. He will present the winner of the Departmental Citation in Middle Eastern Studies to Nahid Shahabi. Professor Jerry Sanders. He will present the winner of Departmental Citation in Peace and Conflict Studies to Lara Karina Duncan. Professor J. Bradford DeLong. He will present the winner of Departmental Citation in the Political Economy of Industrial Societies to Rachel Lee Caliguri. Congratulations to all of you. Now we will turn to departmental honors, and this year's honors coordinator, Professor Alan Karras, would like to address the honors class.
Put the newspapers away, please. IAS has one of the most rigorous honors programs at Berkeley. I think it might even be famous, since many people from other departments call to ask me questions about it. Students who complete honors in our majors must fulfill all of the requirements of the individual programs in which they are enrolled and complete their courses with distinction. Since we have foreign language requirements in place, as you have heard, that is often not as easy as it might sound. Over the dozen years that I have been at Berkeley, our program has changed a bit, moving in several different directions, sometimes at the same time, and going from having one path to honors to having several paths to honors, and now going back to having only one path to honors, a real capstone experience. What has always remained constant, however, has been the high quality measured in ways in addition to grade point averages of the students who elected to pursue honors. It is therefore a knowable fact that the students who are seated on the stage this afternoon have accomplished that which they set out to do. Some of them consumed rather more energy than they imagined, or than I imagined was even possible while trying to achieve their goals. Others seemed, and I use that word deliberately, to do the task effortlessly. They have earned our respect not only for completing their projects, but for being articulate and well-read, even in the most arcane of subjects. I now ask that the honors class rise for all of us to recognize their achievements as a group. If you want to know who they are, please check your programs as they are recognized there. As proof of the superiority of the IAS honors process, our students generally are always among the 6 annual campus winners of the library's prize for undergraduate research. This is very impressive given our program's numerical standing relative to other majors. And I am pleased to report that this year our pattern has remained unbroken. I now ask that Cecile Evers rise for our recognition and congratulations as the latest IAS winner of the Library Prize, and come forward because we have something for you. Congratulations. And finally, each year, IAS teaching programs award an Outstanding Honors Thesis Award for the best of the honors theses. Each year, it is a challenge to select the winner since there are so many theses on important and interesting subjects that also happen to be flawlessly or nearly flawlessly written. As an example, I gave a mini lecture last month on the appropriate use of ellipses 3 or 4 dots to one of the honors classes. There was immediate correction in most subsequent drafts, and what I learned from this is that it takes a geek to know a geek. This year, one honors thesis stood out from the others in its research question, organization, methodology, and primary source analysis. Moreover, it is beautifully written. That thesis, entitled "The Vatican's Fall from Grace: How the Church is Losing Influence in Chilean Sex Education," is a superior project that explored the ways in which the Chilean Catholic Church has been edged out of the debate about providing sex education in state-run schools. I should say right now that it did not win the prize because it mentioned the word sex. I am therefore delighted to award this year's Outstanding Honors Thesis Prize to Rachel Caliguri, PEIS major. Rachel.
Thank you, Alan. The next award honors Outstanding Service to the International Area Studies teaching program. Honorees have contributed a significant amount of their own time and energy over a sustained period of time to improve the experience of students in our majors. This year, we have 2 winners. The first is an honors student in the Peace and Conflict Studies program. She was an energetic and enthusiastic peer advisor for 3 semesters. She was also one of the inaugural members of the PAC's Student Participation Council, acting as a liaison between students and the faculty. She also served on the IAS Students Association Leadership Committee and the IAS Student Research Panel for Cal Day. Every time there's an IAS event, she is seen designing flyers and doing her best to promote the event. She has earned the respect and admiration of her fellow IAS peers, charming them with her sparkling personality. I am pleased to award a Special Contribution Award to Q Tran. Our next Special Contribution Award goes to an IAS graduate student who is exceptional in both academics and leadership. As a Rotary Peace Fellow, she represented Berkeley as a keynote speaker for conferences on the East Coast and in Mexico. She was also a recipient of Berkeley's Outstanding GSI Award. As a GSI in Peace and Conflict Studies, she was an inspiration to dozens of students, some of whom declared PACS as their major because of her. She produced and spoke at an event about her work with the United Nations, in addition to other collaboration between Peace Fellows Program and IAS undergraduates. I am pleased to award a Special Contribution Award to Francesca Giovannini. Okay, before we move on to the highlight, the conferring of degrees, let me say a few more words. And they are about the significance of the hood and the gown. It may look as though we're trying to emulate Harry Potter in Hogwarts Academy. But we do so nonetheless, even at the risk of turning the pomp into the pompous. In our democratic and democratic society, especially in informal California, there are preciously few occasions in which we don special clothing. Besides wedding and Halloween for kids, graduation is the only other major occasion in which people do something special and distinct. The wearing of the medieval gown unites the graduates not only among themselves, but also to the past, not only to their fellow alumni of years past, indeed centuries past, their teachers, but also to the core tradition of the West. As you know, modern universities are some of the oldest human institutions, with roots not only to medieval Europe, but also to the medieval Islamic civilization. The wearing of the gown, most importantly, highlights the almost sacred nature of this occasion. The commencement, the beginning of graduates' new lives into the Republic of Learning, to the company of mature, independent intellects, and the privileges and responsibilities that membership entails. That is, the wearing of the gown signifies the individual's intellectual maturity and independence as someone who's responsible ultimately to her or his conscience. That is, it's a symbol that the graduates are joining the very privileged company of educated women and men who henceforth has the luxury and the responsibility to think and act independently and critically, to live the life of inner sovereignty demanded of dignified and educated citizenry. There are different degrees, and Master of Arts signifies, through the wearing of a special hood, that the bearer has mastered a field of inquiry and the rights and privilege thereunto to teach and to make contribution to our collective knowledge. Many of our MA students have undertaken 2 years of rigorous and intensive coursework and have completed either an oral examination or written a thesis. Graduates, you will now take the stage to be recognized. But remember, this is for all of you, don't move your tassel from the right to the left until after all of you have been recognized. I would also like to ask the audience to please hold your applause until the end of each group. This year, there are 3 distinct classes of graduate level degrees. The first is International and Area Studies graduate program. Will the following Master of Arts graduates please come to the stage to be recognized? And they'll be hooded by their advisor or their proxy. Professor Edwin Epstein will hood K. Amy Banas. She wrote a thesis on playing for peace, possibility of using sport as a tool for promoting peace. Ed, would you stay? Helene Carvalho will be honored by Director Epstein as well, and she completed a comprehensive oral examination. Professor Alfhammer. He will hood Sang-hyun Chun, who wrote a thesis on bilateralism and regionalism under weakening and WTO. Ed, would you come up again? Director Epstein will hood Scott Field, who completed comprehensive oral exam. Francesca Giovannini, she also completed a comprehensive oral examination. And Sarah Marianne Peterson, who also completed a comprehensive oral examination. Our second graduating group is the Latin American Studies graduate group. And there are 2 Masters of Arts this year. And first of all, Chair Tarika will hood Christine De Jong, who wrote a thesis on engendering revolution, gendered responses to the Bolivian Revolution in Venezuela. And Professor Beatriz Mont will hood Meredith Allison Perry, who wrote a thesis on a place at the table, communal kitchens and women's political participation in Peru. And our third and final graduating class is our class of Rotary World Peace Fellows, and Professor Epstein will introduce this program to you.
Thank you, Dean Lee, and good afternoon, graduates and all you significant others of various descriptions. For the last 5 years, Berkeley has hosted a very, very special program funded by the Rotary Foundation. It is the Center for International Studies in Peace and Conflict Resolution. Berkeley is one of 6 campuses located throughout the world to host such a program. It brings to the campus individuals who are best described at early mid-career, people in their late 20s to early 40s, for 2 years of graduate studies after they have begun careers in human rights, conflict resolution, peace-related activities. And they come to pursue whatever degrees are most relevant in terms of their background and their future career directions here. They're an extraordinary group. These are people who aspire and already have begun the road of becoming change agents for peace in their countries and their regions and globally. They come to us from a variety of programs and locations, from Afghanistan to Latin America to the Philippines and all places in between. They come here and have a wonderful opportunity, but they also come with opportunity costs in that many of them have had to either resign positions or take leaves of absence from their organizational settings to pursue this program, and at times even leaving spouses and children at home to undertake this opportunity. This is the fourth graduating class of Rotary Peace Fellows, and I would like to introduce them and ask them to come forward. I'm going to introduce them. I'm supposed to hand them scrolls, but there's a logistical problem of how I hand them scrolls while I'm standing here. So what I'm going to do is walk over, get the scrolls, and come back. So bear with me for a moment. You see, entrepreneurship takes many forms. Roland Bellato. Roland from the Philippines has completed a master's in Asian Studies. Helen Carvalho. Gabriel Dwoskin is not with us at the moment. Scott Field. Francesca Giovannini. Stephen Nakana. Sarah Peterson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Now it's time for the conferral of undergraduate degrees. Two juniors have been selected and asked to read the names of our graduating seniors. Would Alejandra Guanipa from Latin American Studies and Trisha Chakrabarti from Political Economy of Industrial Societies please come to the stage? And please hold your applause until the end. Thank you.
I'm pleased to announce the honors class of 2007. Sarah Esther Levine Jebrock, Development Studies. Cecile Ann Marguerite Evers of Development Studies. Gina Spitz of Development Studies. Walter Angeles Abrasaldo of Development Studies. Daniela Cruel Di Giacomo of Latin American Studies. Shaheen Barakubi of Middle Eastern Studies. Leila Davina Martin of MES Major. Fatim Mojadani of Middle Eastern Studies. Nahid Shahabi of Middle Eastern Studies. Leslie Michelle Sander of Peace and Conflict Studies. Jordan Steiner of Peace and Conflict Studies. Jacqueline Morso File of Peace and Conflict Studies. Shane Bauer of Peace and Conflict Studies. Q Tai Tran of Peace Conflict Studies. Shannon Elizabeth Kiley of Peace and Conflict Studies. Rachel Lee Kalergi of PEIS. Avery Livingood, Political Economy of Industrial Societies. Elizabeth Nicole Wood of PEIS. Shehzad Lakhani of PEIS. Thomas Ronald Oster of PEIS. And let's welcome the class of Development Studies. To An Tran Phan. Mira Gurud. Leah Jane Bell Shaw. Frank Rivers Golbeck. Braden Holtzinger. Jessica Ann McGee. Leticia Hu. Virgilio Felix. Alexandra Paige Grainer. Terrell Alexander Holliday. Nadia Elizabeth Alami. Hector Vivero. Mitsutatake Blitz Ono. Ana Margreta Orem Kwame. Berkeley Jean Lowry Evans. Thomas Patrick Shupin. Faima Ishaq. Priya B. Naika. Nicole Sheena Anand. Lasandra Guerra. Chelsea Kirkland. Michael Wong. Devin James McNulty. Carrie Elizabeth Anderson. Jennifer Skylar Gilbert. Kari Takayu. Christelle Quintanuza. Sinai Yidbarek. Sandra Heydrich. Tamara Brandsberg. Catherine Maria Longer. Sarah Lillian Welch. Eba Charlotta Cecilia Bath. Brittany Ann Davis. Monica Kameko Appleby. Risa Bond. David Richard Elliott. Catherine Reif. Rosa Vazine. Sophie Lo Young. Jessica Susan Martyr Kenyon. Suzanne Sandra Alcraft. Wayne Lung. Kathleen Rashiano Miles. Stacy Ann May. Catherine Hyun Bang. Angela Kaichi Ho. In the Latin American Studies Department, Amanda Carol Buyars. Rosa Maria Calvallo. Gladys Maria Vilches. Patricia Beltran. Nidia Baez Arredondo. Michael James Angeles. Middle Eastern Studies. Ihud Moshe Apple. Roberta Davenport. Areg Allen Sarkisian. Peace and Conflict Studies. Frank William Ehrenfried. Yawusishi Tekpa. Jean Marie Kowanowski. Drew Harrison. Pamela Joy Knowles. Josh Lebovitz. Nicola Ferenc. Joshua Cook. Sylvia Ray Ewald. Jasmine Mora. Valerie Michelle Hudson. Lyda Prince Shepard. Anna Meredith Key. Kevin Morgan Major. Rachel Lee Foster. Catherine Marshall. Lara Karina Duncan. George Albert. Ashley Shaheen. Devin Baulio. Anna Lynn Schlotz. Kristen Mora Morley. Kevin Michael Texera. Alexandra Renee Costalas. Galen Richard Jackson. Andrew Michael Ward. Irina Nikoleva. Ki Young Park.
I'm pleased to present the Political Economy of Industrial Societies, class of 2007. August Ewald Summer Feldefarth. Ellen Lamb. Carlos Ivadio Rodriguez. Philip Vernock. Stephanie Nicole Stillwell. Juan Kim. Nora Jang. Keshav Malani. Sarah Jean Tran. Jessica Renee Mao. Nathan James Danielson. Michael Richard Portanova. Ramin Montakab. Ali Asare. Zachary Brannon Cruz. Anthony Joseph Petron Costa. Amanda Lee Schneider. Kelly Marie Barham. Stephanie Blotter. Elizabeth Marion Swaney. Claudia Rocio Macias. Nadia Evelia Macias. Heather Harada. Wei Yu. Gary Wen. David Wentworth Guarino. Asia Pasinski. Nicholas Luca Simchik Arise. Michael Ritchie. Ari Peled. Ryan James Miller. Dominique Maria Garcia. Sean Wang. Shuhan Wang, sorry. David M. Borenstein. Brisa Sanchez. Andres Cardona. Samuel David Lloyd. David Allen Tran. Christine Yang. Jane Lee. Heidi Marie Jen Kwong. Jacqueline Marie Nader. Runel Malyari Liwanag. Alyssa Goldenberg. Boris Grog. Dwight E. Upshaw. Marie Claire Lamb. Kelly Amanda Dunleavy. Bridget Madeline Duffy. Alexander Danielin. Spencer Stephen Turpin. Bradley Dugan. Mark Randall Murrin. Patrick Gillespie. Eugenia Bazigos. Bradford Michael Parks. Rick Troy Felix. Jonathan Jojo Choi. Esther Kim. Paul Skowronski. Hangama Asifi. Ann Sue. Rabia Ahmad. Margaret Fisher Lees. Natasha Dandavati. Molly Amanda Loughran. Ann Dang Tang Mai. Christopher Michael Wayman. Tan U Stephen I. Carolyn Tamkul II. Mujan Zulfagari III. Rachel Conklin IV. Melanie Renee Barrett. Alan Durand Lightfelt. Athena Jade Ula. David Neil Ghosh. Juan Morgan Jr. Rex Fan. Akila Takalapalli. Anuradha Moleji. Shannon Kathleen Anderson. Hyun Chung. Min Kyung Kim. Crystal Faye Tsao. Sandy Leung. Juwon Peck. Michelle Louise Gibson. Hillary Elizabeth Thornton. Lindsay Elizabeth Wall. Nadia Free Palestine Barhum. Courtney Ann Beekler. Stacy Renee Schenkel Pearl. Crystal Star Mincy. Drew DeHaven Hall. Miran Sisek. Andrew Harada Rowland. Alfred Burton Purcell VI. Emily Merrill Rapp. James Lapchung Kwan. Michael Clifton John Newton McLaughlin. Cesar Ruiz. Carrie Wong. Xiaowen Chi. Tina Carmen Chung. Victor Ma. Jane Yupa T. Lindsay Yukeko Moriguchi. Timothy Wu Wang.
Commencement marks a moment when our graduates have demonstrated through their brilliance and diligence that they're ready to join the company of educated men and women. We recognize your achievements. Students, of course, but also their loved ones, especially parents, who have supported them and sacrificed much to help them reach this ultimate event. But commencement also marks the beginning of your new challenges and responsibilities. Now, would all the students please stand up? By virtue of the authority vested in me by the President and the Chancellor, I grant you the degrees of Master of Arts in International and Area Studies, Master of Arts in Latin American Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Development Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Latin American Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Middle Eastern Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Peace and Conflict Studies, and Bachelor of Arts in Political Economy of Industrial Societies. Graduates, please move your tassels from the right to the left. I have one final request for the audience. Please stay in your seats while the faculty and graduates recess from the auditorium. Thank you all for coming, and let me end the same way that I began this ceremony. Congratulations, class of 2007.